Hello there, good morning. It is Wednesday, the first day of the 12th month of 2021, the last month of the year for that matter. And this is your favorite morning show, Good Morning Africa, the newspaper review segment of the show. Very interesting topics up for discussion today. Let me take you through them quickly. Tens of thousands march against military rule in Sudan. We took that story from the Ghanaian Times newspaper. And majority approves 2022 budget. Well, it's going to be very, very interesting here on the morning show today. And Dufour indicts Mahama on jobs. That story we took from the Daily Guide newspaper. And Martin Amidou blasts Akufo-Addo, NDC MPs over economic hardship. That story was taken from the Insight. Very, very interesting day. Very, very. But let me remind you that we are coming to you live from Asudize number 48, Swanika Street in Abelenkpe. We are also streaming live on Facebook and on YouTube at Pan African Television. Let us keep the show as interactive as possible. Do all to connect with us on Facebook. Leave your comments, share so that others could also join in the conversation. I'm privileged to have here in the studios of Pan African Television three strong doctors here with me in the studio. So we are going to be looking, I know there's particular interest in one very big story that cuts across all the newspapers, the fact that the budget has been approved. Wow. It was only a few days ago that it was unapproved, and just yesterday a reversal has been made with regards to that particular decision. So we'll be delving into that. We'll be having an in-depth discussion as far as the 2022 budget is concerned. But before that, let's go first into that African story about Sudan. The troubles there never cease to end. Right. Happening, to the happenings in Sudan. But before we do that, let's quickly go for a short breather. When we return, we'll
Hello, information. Me, I have still not got the money for that list of expensive building materials you sent to me. The price of the iron rods have been increased too much,
Madam, relax. Look, that's not why I did call. I just visited IPCP, where the engineers told me everything about Trasacco fast floor.
Trawanko, please, those people are expensive. Are they not the people building those big houses in town? I beg those guys.
Madam, in fact, I used to think the same until I visited their office today, and they gave me an estimate of how much it will cost. No, the estimate is real. It's cheaper than the one I even sent you.
Wow.
Building contractors, foremen, masons. Visit IPCP, the Trasacco Fast Floor. Engineers will assist you build an affordable, faster and stronger building.
Oh, madam. It is done.
Wow.
Trasacco Fast Floor. Stronger, faster and affordable.
This is a Trasacco construction product.
It's the most wonderful month of the year, and Ridge Royal Hotel will make it even more superb. Join Let's welcome our brothers and sisters from the diaspora to the historic city of Cape Coast, where it all began. The celebration train begins with a Farmers' Day afternoon jam on December 3 featuring Chirampon Traditional. The Wakanda One City of Return Trade Expo is on from 6 to 12 December. 22nd December is Osabrema Ridge Royal Carol service, and on Christmas Day, the Trinity Music Group will treat you to a fabulous poolside praise. The 27th December Z, or the first of its kind fishermen and fishmongers bash at the pool area. Z is also 31st night will be a rollicking time as we enjoy the King's New Year Gala night with the Rock Factory. Truly, December at Ridge Royal Hotel is richly inviting and comfortably yours. Get involved.
Well, welcome back from that show, brother. Still watching the newspaper review segment of the morning show. Good morning, Africa. We are live from our studios here, number 48, Swanika Street, in Abilinkpe. The discussion has already started. It has already started. We went for that show with that. There's some side discussions, but some side discussions, you know, with regards to the former president and the current president. I wouldn't let you in on the details of it. You know, let's leave it at that. We are discussing, like earlier intimated, tens of thousands march against military rule in Sudan, and majority approves 2022 budget. That's what was taken from the Daily Graphic newspaper. Dufour indicts Mahama on jobs, Daily Guide. Martin Amidu blasts Akufo-Addo, NDC MPs over economic hardship. I have with me here the former member of parliament for the Binduri constituency, Dr. Robert Kugan-Ablem, as well as the Dean of Students and a lecturer at the University of Professional Studies. I hope I got that right. Dr. Mensa Mauto, and a lecturer at the University of Applied Management, Dr. Mohammed Mazouk. Good morning, sirs.
Good morning, sir.
Welcome to the newspaper review segment. I know you are all pumped. You are all pumped for the budget story. The budget story. The budget story. To approve or not to approve, but it has been approved. Whether we like it or not.
I am much interested
in the Dufour.
Dufour indicting
Mahama
on jobs.
On jobs. But let's look at the economic aspects. The economic aspects too of the budget.
He didn't indict.
No, not at all.
Well,
I listened to the tape. I didn't see any
indictment
in there.
Okay. But I think we'll get into the newspaper and see what they have written there.
Yes.
Based on that, we can advance our discussion. All right, but let's get to our very first story happening in Sudan, where tens of thousands have been marching against military rule ever since a joint government, a government of military and civilian, was agreed on in that particular country. It's understood that 43 people have been killed in a crackdown so far. Dozens have been arrested. Protesters have rejected the prime minister's deal with the military, and top politicians detained since the coup have been released as well. So that is with regards to happenings in Sudan. Let me start with Dr. Mazouk.
To the cherished viewers of ours, and thanks for the opportunity to be here. I have been put in a very difficult situation, a situation in which I am diplomatically ganging up with my academic colleague against my own uncle. So
you know how to handle him.
So academic solidarity over family ties. Anyway, that is healthy for the discourse on this platform.
Right.
Well, I have always maintained that any form of military junta should be opposed. Any form, whether it is in collaboration or in partnership with civilian authorities, whether it is alone, whatever form it is, should be opposed.
Strongly opposed.
Strongly opposed. There's no justification for military junta. No justification, not at all. So every form of military junta must be opposed and dismantled. And that is why I solidarize with the people of Sudan for the continuation of the resistance against the military dictatorship that is trying to metamorphose into a constitutional authority. And we have seen that in Africa. Ghana, I am urging them to learn from the Ghanaian experience. When in the 1970s, Ghanaians rose against the military tactics when Acheampong regime proposed Unigov, right? That is the government or unity government. It was supposed to be the partnership between civilian officials and military officers to run the government, a combination of civilian and military government. Ghanaians opposed it, dismantled it, at the end of the day, the military governance continued, the dictatorship, let me call it military dictatorship, continued until it was dislodged by another military coup. And then, so it is clear that Sudanese must continue to hold the fire against any form of military dictatorship. That should not happen. At the end of the day, it is going to be the continuation of the dictatorial regime of al-Bashir. Because almost all the generals were once closer to al-Bashir or members of al-Bashir regime. And therefore, I think we have to salute the people of Sudan. Let them continue, in spite of the firepower by the military junta. Let them continue to showcase their sense of patriotism, to showcase their sense of resilience, to showcase their sense of resistance, and to tell the whole world that in the end, it is not the military, but the good people of Sudan.
Right.
I don't want to talk much about it. This is all that I can say. Let me add that this should be an African affair. This should be an African affair. Let AU and other regional blocs within the continents of Africa prioritize this issue. Let them not wait for the Western powers to jump in or the Eastern powers to jump in, and at the end of the day, these powers would rather exploit the situation for their own advantages. So it is an African affair. And what we should also understand is that beyond the military, because dictatorship of all forms should not be entertained, beyond the military, let the African authorities, African government, African rulers try as much as possible to be proactive, to even attempts to institute constitutional dictatorship. Sometimes constitutional tyranny is done under the watch of these rulers, and when the trouble comes, then they rise. And I think they should be more proactive. So their proactiveness should be towards opposition to all forms of dictatorship and opposition to all forms of military junta. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Akuganablem.
Yes. The case of Sudan, thousands protesting against the military government of Sudan. What I will say briefly on this matter is a lot of people have come in, including the West, to place sanctions on Sudan. The problem for me is external governments always waiting until a desperate situation occurs in a country. They go in, bringing in sanctions, worsening the plight of the very poor people. Right now, those who are protesting, they are protesting because bread and butter has become a big problem for them. Why do we always sit and allow a country to degenerate into a situation of hopelessness before we act, or we appear to be saying something? We see all over Africa pseudo-democracies, autocratic governments that are elected. They elect and they change into serpents of corruption, bleeding the ordinary persons. We wait until this gets to a point where the military or ordinary civilians intervene in the governance. Mind you, there have never been any military takeover in any country without civilians playing a part. They hide under the carpet and push the military to go in and destabilize the country. For me, the case of Sudan, it is high time we reflected. You see, there was also a military coup in Senegal. Guinea, that tall guy. Yes, Guinea.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. You see, when the soldier has absolute control or comes from an ethnic division that is strong, then they give him the pass. But when you come from a minority, like in the case of Sudan, you see what has happened. So why is it that some countries there's a pass and in other countries there's a difficulty? But the main problem is the suffering of the ordinary person. It was clear that things weren't working well in Sudan. It was also clear that they had moved from one military regime and they don't want to go back to a military regime. And so other African countries, the European countries who are our main enemies in terms of wanting Africa to stand on its feet. They don't want us to stand on our feet. That is the story. They don't come in until the country is boiling. A country wants aid, they will come with all sorts of difficulties to make it impossible for you to be able to offer bread and butter for your people. They come and say they will help you, they are coming to invest. They never come to invest, they come to exploit. And that is the situation. And so for me, let's not just see thousands of people marching, because as they march, they are being shot at. As they march, people are killed. Let's see that those who are marching are not people on a full belly. They are marching on empty bellies, and they just want bread and butter. If we are able to appreciate that little problems magnify into such big situations, then in our own backyard, we should watch carefully and manage our democracy in a manner that is satisfying to the ordinary citizen.
Right. Thank you very much. Dr. Mensah Mawuto.
Thank you. My greetings to my colleague panelists. And let me also take this opportunity to wish my pastor a happy belated birthday. Yes, he celebrated his birthday yesterday. In fact, it's unfortunate we are where we are today, but I am not surprised. You know, Sudan is going through what probably one could say the remnants of overthrowing a very powerful president and then an entrenched regime in a nation. You can't joke with Bashir, the ousted president, and the way and manner he was overthrown. Okay? It's just like using the wrong to correct a wrong. That's what it means. Unlike Ghana, where fortunately, under the Fourth Republic, we've experienced successive changes in government. And just as we always say, between these two political parties who have duopolized governance in this country. At least, that is on the basis of democratic dispensation. Okay? Sudan as a country have never experienced this. There have been successive coups. Their governments have changed from coup to coup. So the tenet of democracy itself is not an experience they have really witnessed. That smooth transitioning of power. Some time back this year, we sat in the same studio and even critiqued the time frame for the transitional government of Sudan. What are they doing? From 2019, April, till date, what are they preparing for? Indeed, if you are really interested in a democratic dispensation, then within a year, it's expected that you should have come out with any changes in your constitution that you intend amending, put measures in place for people who are aspiring. Today's world, like whilst growing, we were taught on the principles of global village that we live in as a world. Today, everybody sees whatever happens in other countries. We just opposite with what we do in a part of the world and wish. So we have aspirations. People have aspirations. People have aspirations to lead, to also put their leadership, skills at the disposal of their country. Those are things that the average, like, African want to also do. But where we have a regime probably influencing some exclusivity of some people, that's what happens. The problem is the time frame for the transitional government. You see, the military and civilians working together to govern, it has never been successful in any country. It can happen. It can happen. You know, these are two different people. You know, as soon as you go to the military, their training is rigorous. I mean, the way they say things, different from the way we say things. How is the military trained? In fact, in actual fact, they are trained to protect our territories and also to be in the war front whenever there is war. Do they have what it takes to govern an economy? The answer is no. Now, if we accept a system that, look, we want a democratic dispensation to govern our country, we need to deplete and define the rules of the military and the civilians. It has never worked since 2019 when this civilian and military arrangement was put in place. Like you read, the demonstration is not just one part of the story. Civilians are demonstrating against the joint military and civilian government, as well as pro-military demonstrators. Some are demonstrating that, look, military should take over. There should be a coup d'etat. Only military should rule. Please read it well. BBC, over the weekend. There were also pro-civilian, so it is subdivided. It tells you that there's, we sit here in Ghana and think that the thing is just as it is. But bless, for me, like the way Ghana went through the series, you know, sometimes like Guinea, where civilians are so happy that they have removed their president through military coup. The same happened in Ghana. I quite remember some people were very happy. I learned there was I wasn't born by then. There was so much joy, and I think I listened to the former president of Ghana, Rawlings, that he's never witnessed the joy when people, I mean, of the people when Kwame Nkrumah was removed. This came from the map, one of the documentaries. That there was so much joy that Nkrumah's government was overthrown by the military in this country. And what happened? What Sudan is going through, we went through the same series. A number of successive coups d'etat. Second Republic was overthrown. We went through series of dark ages in Ghana. And these are things that I think we need to share with our brothers and sisters in Africa. That is it, when you overthrow a very powerful regime, there are consequences that you have to face. You cannot use a day to clean any mess, because there are entrenched positions, there are entrenched institutions, and once your institutions have been entrenched by a regime, then be ready to fight all this. And it will take a number of years. So what they are going through is a normal stress they have to go through, and that will be one of the dark ages of Sudan. But at the end of the day, what do we expect? We expect our brothers and sisters from Sudan to come out clean, at least prepared a roadmap to return to democratic rule. They should understand that they are one people in one nation, and then also allow people to espouse their leadership skills. Whatever good intention they have for their country, they should allow them, and allow democracy. Look, we've all accepted democracy as one of the best rules in contemporary governance. You grew up knowing democracy. I also grew up knowing democracy. And bless, like you are doing today, I know you have an ambition to become somebody in future. Of course. Like the way Honorable sitting here has the ambition to one day return back to power with this party. Okay. Become the next president. Thank you. Okay.
No, my commitment, NDC coming back to party.
Okay, but not you becoming a president.
Please don't go there.
You cross that river.
No, but I just want you to know.
When he gets there, you'll decide.
No. Everybody has ambitions. Are you okay? So once you are a prominent member of a political party, it's expected that you should have that ambition of leading the party one day. For you know, we'll be good friends of yours. We can convince other people to the people in your party to also vote for you. That's just by the way. So you know, and you see, for some people, the only way you can have this opportunity to serve is when you have a democratic rule. Got numbers, just as you mentioned. There are some locations or territories that if you emerge from such territories, we're talking about numbers, you never get to the top of leadership. Okay. But if there's an opportunity for everyone, nobody's excluded, there's all-inclusive, you know, institutions in this country, then I think everybody's aspiration will be met. So Sudan should just get ready. I mean, it's a normal thing. They'll go through it, and at the end of the day, we hope that democracy will return back to Sudan. And they will not be discussing them.
Let me just add one thing. You know, he mentioned the military elements. There are two factors of this situation. One, normally, when a coup takes place, there is a high dose of passion, right? Emotions. So the emotion is one of the factors driving some people, even some well-established Democrats, to be pro-coup makers, right? The other one is vendetta, personal vendetta. It's vendetta. And let me give you an example. Dr. Kwame Nkrumah's government was largely seen, before it was overthrown, for some time, it became, in the eyes of some people, as constitutional tyranny. You can talk of the Prevention Detention Act, I mean, all those things. So people were peeved. They were people. And of course, it is all over that it was a coup sponsored and staged by imperialists. So they were pro-imperialists. These people would definitely, out of emotions, be sympathetic to the military junta. Even when Rawlings came to power, I was alive, though I was young. I saw it. Uncle, you can confirm the Let the Blood Flow saga. I can tell you, some human rights lawyers were they were the advocates of Let the Blood Flow. Human rights lawyers today, human rights lawyers, they were the proponents of Let the Blood Flow saga. So instances like that are real, but they are motivated by emotions and vendetta.
Dr. Marto, there's a message here for you already. It says, bless, let Dr. Marto know we are waiting to see how neutral he is on the subject matter of the second approval of the budget, although sometimes I like his arguments. We've not started talking about them. People are already itching to hear from you.
Let me explain this. When it comes to my submissions, I'm never neutral. I'm very objective. I strive to be objective.
Objective, not neutral.
Yes, no, I've always taken a stance that I belong there. That is not neutrality. In fact,
objectivity.
I'm being objective. However, I'm neutral from party politics. Okay, when I get here in this chair, I don't belong to any political party. Neither do I submit on the basis of the principles of any political party. Honorable does. What I can say is that my good friend here does not engage in any partisan political submission. I've never witnessed you doing that before. But we understand. Last week I met a lady from the MPP communication. One lady. I mean, the lady. That was the first time I met her. Yes. She was on the look. I came here purposely to defend my party. So I knew that particular day I was in the midst of two political party advocates. So I was able to put on the double what do you call it cap, because I hope you were there with me, but you weren't around.
I was missed. Uncle had a field day.
Oh, yes.
No, he didn't have a field day. Ellen was here. Ellen was here from the NPP, so.
Ellen was here, and what she said, they were implementing more social democratic interventions, national. Yeah, so I told her that's lost. You shouldn't be proud.
Lost identity.
Lost identity. You're confused. Oh, yeah. So your party must have a focus and believe in some principle. So if you say you are a liberal, market-oriented democracy, then you are implementing social democratic.
But even the most advanced capitalist countries are adopting socialist intervention.
Yeah, so socialist you have to redefine yourself.
So that Uncle, that tells you that socialism is everlasting. You like that?
Amen.
That puts finality to the whole discussion. All right. On that note, let's get into the 2022 budget. Let's get to Parliament. Yesterday was approved. Let's go see that particular footage of the budget being approved by the majority in Parliament and being chaired by the first deputy speaker in Parliament. Let's go watch that particular video.
Every day he looks after his brother and chases a bus. Every day he looks after his brother, chases a bus, and learns new things. Every day he looks after his brother, chases a bus, learns new things, and gets back home. Every day he looks after his brother, chases a bus, learns new things, gets back home, and helps his mom. Phew. That's why every day he needs his cup of Milo filled with the nutritious goodness of malt, milk, and cocoa. Milo, the energy to go further.
From Nestle.
This advert is FDA approved.
Honourable members, the motion that was moved by the Honourable Minister and have been debated is now ready for a decision to be taken. We have already determined that the appropriate numbers are in the chamber, and therefore the House stands ready to take a decision. Now I'll put the question. All in favour of the House adopting the resolution moved by the Honourable Minister for Finance, say aye. Aye. All against, say no. The ayes have it. The motion moved. The House has accordingly approved the budget statement for the ensuing year ending 31st December 2022. Honourable members, the motion that was moved by the Honourable Minister and have been debated is now ready for a decision to be taken. We have already determined that the appropriate numbers are in the chamber, and therefore the House stands ready to take a decision. Now I'll put the question. All in favour of the House adopting the resolution moved by the Honourable Minister for Finance, say aye. Aye. All against, say no. The ayes have it. The motion moved. The House has accordingly approved the budget statement for the ensuing year ending 31st December 2022.
Well, right. So there you have it. The 2022 budget being approved there in Parliament by the majority side, and you could hear them saying, the Ajinkwa budget has come to pass. Yes, it has been approved, and we are going to pretty shortly get into this particular discussion of the budget. But there are a lot of questions. There are a lot of questions surrounding it. Minority approved or disapproved it on last Friday, and I think it was 137 members of the minority who disapproved it. And the majority leader of Parliament, he came out to say, look, that was unconstitutional. It had nothing to do about forming a quorum. He quoted some articles of the Constitution and the fact that it had to be majority members. With regards to the numbers in Parliament, there should be a majority. So with the 275, at least there should be 138 members of Parliament to decide on whether or not the budget should be approved. And well, what better to have a former member of Parliament here in the studios to educate us on whether or not, with regards to the budget, there should be a majority number of persons in Parliament, or majority number of parliamentarians in Parliament before it should be approved.
Well, thank you so much. What happened yesterday was very disgraceful. It was going back to some medieval behavior. We have gone past that stage. The standing orders are very clear. Sorry, I didn't bring it here. It said majority present and voted. Majority of members present and voting. So we know that by our standing orders, the speaker does not vote. The speaker does not vote. Now, if there were 138, that means that Bagbin would have been presiding. They become 138. But immediately Joe Wise became speaker, they are no longer 138. They are 137. Now, the crucial thing is not the number of MPs who were present, but the number of MPs who voted. How many people voted? That is the question. Did he vote? It was a voice vote, right? Did he vote? If he voted, it's a nullity. If he didn't vote, they didn't form majority. And therefore, it is still a nullity. Simplicity. I don't know why we should be wasting precious time not looking at why the budget was rejected in the first place, but we are now placing emphasis on rejected and not rejected. That makes us lose the essence of the debate. For me, there is even a suspicion that one of the fellows there was not Adwoa Safo. That she put on a mask.
I've heard that allegation.
Yes, she put on a mask, and that is criminal. Impersonation, unacceptable.
As to whether or not it's true,
yes,
we are here to find out.
But yeah, this should be investigated thoroughly. Thoroughly. The cameras caught somebody. Go and unmask that fellow, and we'll get to know whether that was Adwoa Safo. In any case, if it was Adwoa Safo, we are taking the ordinary Ghanaian for a ride. In Parliament, you are not supposed to be absent continuously for a number of days. You are absent for months, but when it comes to voting, you appear to vote. Yet you are paid by the taxpayer. Where is moral society? What are we doing to Mother Ghana? Somebody is not working. He takes a salary from the already depleted government resources, but has time to appear and vote. He did not contribute to the debate on the budget. He did not sit in Parliament as his people voted for him to work in Parliament and make their voice heard. That fellow did not do that, but appeared and voted. Unacceptable. Where is moral society? The Yanzani Where is that man? You can't talk to this. And this country can go forward with such behavior. People were flown in to come and vote. People were flown in with the taxpayers' money to come in and vote. Yet, others were in the house cracking their heads to make sure that the budget is fine-tuned in a way that will bring some relief to the common man. You are not doing charity work. You are working and being paid by the people of Ghana. And therefore, your work must not be cosmetic. Because this voting process was cosmetic, it is useless, it is unconstitutional, it is irresponsible behavior. That is what this voting process is. And so for me, going forward, we have to look at things properly. When Joe Ajoho was made speaker, he resigned. And so when you become speaker, the framers of the constitution said you don't have to belong to a political party so that you can you can have some level of neutrality. Going forward, either our speakers are elected in parliament, are parliamentarians and elected, or everybody, including deputy speakers, are brought in by the ruling party. People who have established themselves as people of integrity, people of honor, people who are willing to serve the country no matter which political party, not people who are politically exposed and therefore have become, what can I say, do not think about the country Ghana, they only think about their political party and how to lean with their political party. You see, people are leaning shamelessly to their political party, the MPP, because of the autocratic governance system we see. Because Akufo-Addo is not willing to, cajole, play with kid gloves with any parliamentarian in MPP who goes against his decisions.
Right.
When you go against his family and friends' government, you are in trouble.
Right.
No matter who you are. And so people are dancing like kids. There's no any sense of dignity, any sense of moral thinking in whatever decisions we see from the MPP side. This is very shameful. The country has become ungovernable because we have an autocrat doing his things. I would just end by saying that what they did yesterday was unconstitutional. It lacked the basic principles of probity, accountability, and transparency, which are well glued in our constitution. And therefore, it is null and void. There was an illegal fellow there, an imposter there, who was Max. And according to sources, that is not Adwoa Safo. And so for this morning, if Adwoa Safo is in the... She's a nice lady. I like her. She's a very pleasant person. But she cannot be used in this manner. She needs to clear herself and clear herself properly. She is not the one. If she is not the one, she should come out and say it. If she is the one, she should also come out and say it so that we don't speculate and dent her good image. A very pleasant lady.
Right. Dr. Kugan-Ableb, let me stay with you on the budget because I want us to talk about the issue of appropriate numbers, what the Constitution says and how it was interpreted yesterday. Mr. Osei-Owusu called the House to order and quoted Order 109 and Article 104 of the 1992 Constitution to justify that the House had a quorum, the required number of members in the chamber, and therefore it stood ready to take a decision. Article 104 of the Constitution says, except otherwise provided in this Constitution, matters in Parliament shall be determined by the votes of majority members present and voting with at least half of all members present. What this means is that before you take a decision, there must be at least majority of all members present. With me, that is the speaker, the deputy speaker. With me, we are 138 members, and that is the majority. It does not mean that all the 138 members must vote yes or no. The decision of majority of these 138 members will carry, the first deputy speaker declared. He also said under Order 109, no question for a decision in the House shall be proposed for determination unless there are present in the House not less than 1/2 of all members of the House, and except otherwise provided in the Constitution, the question proposed shall be determined by a majority of votes of members present and voting. Earlier on in your submission, you mentioned that the Speaker, you know, he is the Member of Parliament for Bekwai, but upon assumption of the duties of the Speaker, he ceases to be part of the voting process. But he stated emphatically and categorically that plus me, we are 138. And 138 plus 138 forms the majority of Parliament.
Perfect. Plus me would have been if he was sitting on the floor, but not on the chair of the Speaker. Once he was sitting on the chair of the Speaker, he cannot say plus me.
But then again, he went on to say that the decision it's not a matter of whether all the people there vote yes. He said some people could have voted yes. So a simple majority. So it means that he still could have been out of the equation, and still there would have been that majority.
Then why wasn't he out of the equation? This thing is interpreted, if it's somebody who doesn't know anything about law, understands that when they say at least half present and voting, half is not 137. We all have 137, yeah. But that is not half. Plus one gives you the majority. And so, where are we? Where are we? It's the same thing that was done by the minority, which was said to be flawed, isn't it? Because if they were there to vote, and we had 137, where would we have gone? But we couldn't have voted in this because we believed in our first vote that what was done was constitutional. Because they all came in, they registered in the book that they were present. And for that matter, the majority, the whole house was set for this. When they didn't have the number, because they couldn't, get somebody painted like Adjo, then they had to walk out because they didn't have number. And then making childish arguments that Asedun Ketia was on the gallery. When we know that any person can sit on the gallery. I mean, these are childish, and we cannot accept that. It's an assault on democracy. What they did was an assault on democracy, which should not be tolerated at all. It should not be tolerated because this country is moving gradually to an undemocratic state. A fake democracy is what we are seeing now. The people can just, leave plastics to try to. And we lose the essence of the argument. The essence that everybody, yes, we need money to run the country. Everybody knows that. But we have to, look at yesterday when the persons with disability demonstrated against the, closing the toll booths and they have no work to do. This was key because these are ordinary people who are not able to get bread and butter on their table. One is lost. This matter is lost to us. And we are now talking about voting. The essence of the debate was to streamline the budget and make it proper, such that all agencies or government departments get what they are supposed to in a manner that will allow them execute. And if they saw excesses in some areas, they try to make sure that they balance it very well. And that the Momo tax, the e-levy, was harsh because it was huge and it didn't make sense. People who were pontificating for cash. What will mean now is that people are going to put money in their pocket. Because if I go to the market and I pay with my Momo and you have to tax it, then I rather would pay with cash so that I don't get taxed. Because everybody, my friend here, the finance guy, knows that we are economic beings. The economic man will always make an intelligent, rational economic decisions. Nobody wants to pay any tax. Nobody. Everybody pays tax grudgingly. And that is it. Because you do not think that that tax you are paying will be used in a manner better than your personal judgment of what you want to use in the you want to use the money for. So nobody pays tax happily. We pay it grudgingly. And for that matter, we must find ways of making taxes acceptable to the people so that they pay smiling.
Smiling, right. Dr. Kugana Ablem has labeled the actions of members of parliament yesterday as infantile and antiquated. I know that Dr. Malto, to some extent, would want to share a different opinion. But before that, let me do a few of your Facebook messages. Then we get back to Dr. Malto. It says, not even Bagben. Okay, he said, not even Bagben can be trusted. It could also be a conspiracy on his side to preside over the rejection of the budget and travel on health excuse so that the damage this killer tax budget can be passed in his absence. But within him, he may be fully aware of the plot against Ghanaians. Wisdom will tell you what's going on. The poor, ignorant, uneducated people who just run after politicians and believing their fake promises will continue to feel the pains of their mess. Anthony Agbro says, it is so amazing and terrible for a member of parliament to be absent from parliament for a very long time only to appear to vote. Taxpayers have been disrespected for too long by our leaders. Unacceptable. Akure Albert says, my regards to Honorable Dr. Robert Babaku Ganablem. Binduri people have sold their color TV for black and white one. We have regretted for what happened in December 7 last year, but hoping to do the needful come 2024. Back to the issue of the budget approval. What the majority did yesterday in regards of approving the budget was unlawful, and we must be worried as Ghanaians. Parliamentarians that are supposed to make laws for its citizens violating laws by themselves are clinical signs of autocratic leadership under Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo Bawumia-led administration. Honestly, we should be worried as Ghanaians on how democracy is thrown to the dogs under this current dispensation. Okay. Billy Bala 138. No, I can't read this one. No, please. I cannot. The word he used to describe the 138 parliamentarians, please, no. No. Mohammed Abdul Razak Ali says, what happened yesterday in Parliament shows clearly that these NPP MPs don't think about the suffering of the poor Ghanaians, but rather think about their party and what they will again if in the future NDC also decide to overturn a ruling in Parliament by putting their speaker and their MPs alone. Our leaders have lost their sense and dignity because of greediness, because of greed, and the greediness leads to provocation, and provocation to destruction. May Allah save us all. Okay. Ganko Kezaya. I can't read your message. I'm sorry. Moro Mohammed says, the Adwa Safo we know is not the one we saw at the parliament on 30th November 2021. Richard Allah says, I think Ghanaians are to blame, or Ghanaians need to blame the speaker, Alban. How can you travel overseas? Seriously? Rav Salu says, this is disappointing. MPP is a failure. And Moro Mohammed continues to say, Adwa Safo is still in the United States receiving medical treatment. Right. So these are a few of your messages there on Facebook. Dr. Malto, I want to ask you a few questions. First of all, I want to be as straightforward as possible. I want to know if the approval of the budget bodes well for the ordinary Ghanaian. I don't know what your position is on the matter, and I believe that the good people of Ghana and the viewers of Pan-African TV will be itching to hear from you.
Thank you, Blaise. I'm not a lawyer. I'm an accountant, a finance person. also a Ghanaian who reads the Constitution. And it's English. It's English.
Let me add that you are also a person of common sense.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, what is the problem here? Article 104, clause 1 and 2. Just as we read, except as otherwise provided in this Constitution, matters in Parliament shall be determined by the vote of the majority of members present. That is one. Vote of majority of members present as at the time of the decision. And then 2, with at least half of all the members of Parliament present. So there are 2 things here. What is expected, the numbers expected to vote, and then the numbers expected to be present as at the time of voting. Okay. Then when you read further, the clause 2, the speaker shall have neither an original nor casting vote. Spelled out here. Okay. We know the speaker. Who's the speaker? Thank you. We have deputy speakers, first and second. Are you okay? Yeah. Now, when you read some constitutions, they tell that in the absence of the first is the second, third, fourth. This is not there. It's not true. So there are some technical, like I'll say that there's a vacuum here. So as a Ghanaian, I'm expecting that somebody should go to court, okay, for interpretation of clause 2. However, what I see both NDC and NPP doing is just technicalities they are playing around. Are you okay? Look, it is hypocritical on the part of the NDC to assume that what happened yesterday was illegal and nullity. And also hypocritical on the part of NPP. Because they all mentioned it. That what happened on Friday was a nullity. When in actual fact, they committed the same thing. On Friday, what happened? When you count the NDC MPs, the minority, they were 137 as a speaker. Okay, so let's put it in the provision of 104. How many were present? They need to be what? Because we can't have half a person. Because half is 137.5. Are you okay? So if you have to approximate as a mathematician to 138, it's not true. I said to Honorable Haruna that indeed when they were voting, they were able to get a number because there was the second deputy sitting there. So they were 138. It's not true. Somebody was there. So they met. They were able to meet what? The 138. And in fact, once the 138 were present, it simply meant they can any majority. So they voted against the budget. What happened yesterday? 137 MPs were in there. How many people were present? So the issue of those who voted, majority who voted, I think that one, if you are going mathematically, it is valid. It's not true. But how many people were? I'm coming.
There was a voice vote. The second vote,
boss,
and the first vote. No, that must be made clear. You know, this one terminated at the voice vote. On the Friday voting, it didn't terminate in the voice vote. Okay, because they challenged the voice vote. So when they were doing the voice voting, NDC, NPP were all there. So you cannot extend to when they decided to walk out, when now they had to stand up and be physically counted.
When did they?
There was a voice vote.
When did they reject the budget? Was it when NPP was in, when the majority was in Parliament, or when they walked out?
When they walked out.
Yeah, but they
rejected the budget after the majority walked out.
In the absence of the majority.
In the absence of the majority, there were 137.
They rejected
MPs.
the ballot. I mean, they rejected the budget, the first voting, and they challenged. They challenged. So there were 2 rejects. It was just the vote to confirm. The first voice vote.
So
it was rejected.
So if there was a first voice vote, why the second vote?
Yes, because it was challenged. No, you are trying to establish the issue of those present. Majority present.
If indeed the speaker was in the chair and there was a finality to the first one, why should they vote for another one again?
What kind of voting was the first one?
The voice vote. Just like their vote yesterday was a voice vote.
Right.
Is it legal? That is the question. So I don't want him to just jump to the fact that the quorum was not established in the first vote.
No.
If
I haven't mentioned that. I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
But what I want to know is whether the voice vote is legally valid in this circumstance. Is it?
I should think so.
No, it's valid. You see, voice votes are a part of parliamentary procedures, not true.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
but what was the base of challenging it if it is legally valid?
Perhaps there are some voices who said no.
Discretionary. Yeah. You don't know they do it then. So you see, if all committed the same thing, there was 137. And they counted someone who is a speaker.
But is he a member of parliament?
He's a member of parliament.
No,
but is he a member?
No, on Friday, 137 was counted, and to form a quorum, they counted a speaker to get 138. Is not true?
Yes.
And yesterday, 137 was in parliament. As for Adrasafo's issue, I don't have evidence to it, so I will not add it to the allegation. Because it's just an allegation. Now, so 137.
Yeah.
The speaker, the ones acting for the speaker, is also present. It's an entry. Do you have any regulation? When you are counting people present, deputy speakers, are they not part of it? Are they not present? Don't you count them?
Yes, you count them.
So why is it that today you don't want to count the deputy speaker?
Because he was overseeing.
No, there are 2 things here. You see, if it is not written, okay, it's not voting. It becomes an issue of contention.
Yeah.
It wasn't voting. He said, I am present representing my constituencies. Are you okay? But he's not voting. I mean, for the constitution,
as a spirit elector.
No, please.
There is a spirit there.
So then can you allow him to?
You still not
Yes.
They make sure they use the same technicalities in both instances. Are you okay? I don't intend spending too much time here, but what I want to say is that, see, these 2 parties have really confirmed that when it comes to dialogue, they don't have what it takes to dialogue. And in fact, leaving their political ideologies, orientations, holding it constant, and think about the prosperity of the country, they should be able to hold those one constant to allow systems to go, than using technicalities to have their way. You know, this is the first time in the 4th Republic we have experienced such numbers. So they've never experienced it before. Both parties are culprits of using powers to get things approved. Look,
numerical powers.
Numerical numbers to get things approved.
Which is a power.
Yeah, which is power. Because that's how control is defined. Now, in the next few days, we will be heading towards some constitutional challenges in this country. I pray we don't get there, because after what happened yesterday, I don't want to spend too much time here, because maybe we have to go to the Supreme Court to do some interpretation to cross 2, as well as interpret what has happened. And I will be very happy if a Ghanaian can even sue both the speaker and the first deputy speaker for what they have done, so that it will serve as a deterrent for any future. I mean, it will even guide us, even if nothing was committed. Okay, because we are only interpreting it based on I mentioned, I don't have what it takes to interpret. However, I'm using my common sense and my finance background to interpret numbers. that indeed they all committed the same offense, if indeed they are offenses. Now, Chairman, bless. In the next few days, Parliament, apart from after approval, there should be some expenditure bill and then discussion. They have to look at the appropriation bill. A bill submitted for which also requires a number of period before it's approved and then it's executed and implemented. We don't have time. And you know that if all these things are not done, especially if the appropriation bill is not approved by the end of this month, today is 1st December, nobody can spend on 1st January. It is in the interest of these two parties to agree, come to a consensus that indeed our entrenched positions must vary a bit. Now, what are the entrenched positions? That's where I also, I'm in tune and resonate with honorable submission that the substance of the argument has been relegated
to the background.
We are talking about e-levy. We are talking about my region, Kitasi Defense. We are talking about some other issues that the minority has taken an entrenched position.
Toll booth.
Now, these are the issues. I think you know my position on e-levy. That we've gotten to a stage that indeed, if the country, we have admitted that we are going through crisis, financial crisis, there should be an innovative way of generating revenue to narrow the budget deficit. I have mentioned that this e-levy should be time-bound, like we did to ESLA, should be time-bound. And if the rate, because everybody's talking about the rate, 1.75, which means if I'm to send 1,000 cedis today, I'm going to pay like almost times 3 of what I'm paying. I pay 10 cedis plus 17 cedis. That will give us what? 27 cedis. Why should it be so? Are you okay? So let's look at the rate, review the rate downwards. And a number of proponents have come out to say that. Even Chamber of Telecommunication have also come to also say now look, indeed, the people resonate with what the government is going through. We also said stop the borrowing because the borrowing is going to affect us so much. So let's look at how to create something within. That's the substance of the issue. So, Chairman, you need to talk to. I know you're not in Parliament, but the stance by the minority not to accept the e-levy for that they will not countenance it. I think they should be a little bit measured to engage them and look at how the rate can be reduced and make it time bound. Now,
I call it last week. I describe it as e-robbery and not e-levy.
It's not a robbery. It's not a robbery. Then you see, it was shocking. It was shocking. That's something that just happened a few days ago. The Kitasi Defense thing. That we didn't see much on it. And it is good. It's good for this country that the minority should speak for some of those people. That's why they are constituents. They have to speak for them. And I was also happy that even the Secretary Minister also said that he was even surprised that was in there. So it's a legitimate issue mentioned by the minority. That's where I come from. So I know the facts over there. They should be the consensus, and I think that was what the minister was coming to present by requesting for a meeting with leaders of Parliament. Because I learned there was some consensus that has been met. Now, finally, you know, when you are doing things and people are talking about it, okay, you need to pause, do an introspection, and then look at what we have, whether what we've done is good. The toll booths. Virtually everybody is talking about it.
Yes.
Mr. Finance Minister, please bring back the toll. Isn't Ghanaians are saying, I don't think you have complained for paying the toll. Look, we need revenue. We need so much revenue to meet the day-to-day expenditure.
And the serious thing is that for all these days that the toll booths are closed, it means money is going.
We are losing so much. We are losing so much. Now, you see, please.
And nobody.
It is one of the issues that we should be glad that they have taken off the toll booth. People should be happy. And people are rather saying that, look, bring it back. Okay, by the way, we can only talk about it. However, I think they are in a position to either implement it or not. They know why. However, we also are of the view that these are the people who have given governance of the country to. It is believed they have what it takes. They know why all this. Probably there's a waste somewhere. They just want to avoid and all that. So in the end, I hope that the minority, one of those people, should be a little bit measured with their stance. Let's have this E-level. Look, if it will not work, Kumi Preco happened because of VAT. VAT was introduced. It didn't work as expected. It was withdrawn, repackaged, and today it's a savior of this country. We don't know that the E-levy.
I covered Kumi Preco.
Thank you.
As a young journalist,
I was part of that Kumi Preco match until I got to, I was young by then. My father took me along. When I got to Old Timers and Dabaka, my father asked me to go inside so that he can take the lead to TUC and came back. Okay, so I was waiting at.
And the fire started around the trees.
It's good we know where he is coming from.
No. Perhaps Kumi Preco as a Ghanaian.
We're right.
Where you come from?
Dr. Mazouk, the approval of the budget has been described as a slideshow of comedy, by some Ghanaians. Yeah. I would want to look at it from a political point of view and the implications, the probable implications that it would have on this particular government. Because obviously, the E-levy is something that a lot of Ghanaians are not enthused about. And of course, the minority in parliament raised some cogent reasons for which they disapprove of the budget and the conditions under which they will approve it. Dr. Malto mentioned the Keta Sea defense. We know about the Japad deal and all of these other things, in the budget. This is a government that that wants to break the 8. They want to break the 8. They want to continue to be in power in 2024, 2025, January 7, 2025. They still want to be in power. Does this bode well for them?
Well, it is up to the Ghanaian voter to decide whether it is good for them or not. But let me do comparative analysis here in relation to the E-levy and the toll booth. I even though I have learned a lot from the finance man, and that is the importance of expertise. And if you compare the E-levy to the introduction of VAT, you would definitely agree with him that it may not be totally rejected. I stand for the total rejection. But if you listen to him, you may think that it may not be totally rejected, but it may be repackaged and brought back to satisfy government and the citizenry. And of course, the Kumi Preco demonstration, as I earlier stated, was something that some of us covered. Then I was writing for Free Press, a young journalist, very young, vibrant, fearless indeed.
Only associated with another Free Press.
I was writing for Free Press. Free Press was it was the most powerful newspaper. Yes, and I wanted to associate myself with powerful literary. Yes.
And I used to go and buy it for my father.
You see, so
Free Press, the Graphic, and Times.
If you remember, the value was 17%, right? 17%.
Yes.
Then it was rejected. Rawlings, after the demonstration, former President Rawlings withdrew the VAT, repackaged and brought it to Parliament as 15%, right? And I think the 15%, either 15 or 13, there was another attempt to reject it. But at the end of the day, it was accepted, either 13% or as 15%. I cannot Remember that one. So the e-levy one, if in the eyes of the experts is good at all, it should not be part of anything that will be approved. It should be withdrawn, repackaged. Perhaps after repackaging, there should be public advocacy, awareness campaign for people to understand it very well so that it can be implemented. But I am of the view that yes, I do not understand it well, and therefore I see it as e-robbery. I'm totally against it, and it should also. And I'm totally against it because it targets the poor. In the words of His Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic of Ghana, most people who use the Momo are poor, right? Dr. Bawumia once said that. And these are the targets. Or if you want, it largely targets the poor and then the rich, right? But in comparative analysis, you can see that the toll booth saga rather targets the rich, either the vehicle owner or the driver, right? So why will you abolish a tax that targets the poor?
All inclusive.
Sorry.
Even foreigners.
And foreigners.
Who are driving in.
You understand that? Yes.
Yeah.
So why will you abolish a tax that targets the rich? The rich, and even international citizens,
yes.
Foreigners, the one that will give us a lot of revenue, and then introduce something that largely targets the poor. That is my problem. And that is why I am arguing that it should not be entertained at all. And if there is the need, out of expertise, for it to be entertained, then it should be repackaged. It should be withdrawn, repackaged, and brought back to Parliament for consideration. That's number one. Number two, with all humility, I see what is happening between NDC and MPP as a serious joke by serious people of honor. Very serious joke, I'm telling you. And that deepens the culture of partisanship over patriotism in this country. Yes, ours is multi-party democracy. That sense of pluralism should not at all be a tool of destroying patriotism. I think we must get it right. That sense of partisan pluralism should not be a tool of destroying patriotism. And I can see that what happened. For example, my academic colleague, whom I will always defend, you know, against the wishes and the caprices of my uncle. He has made it clear that both parties stage the same thing. And I agree with him. They stage the same thing. And of course, when we were battling over the speaker or the deputy speaker, I'm telling you, the whole scenario showcases the speaker or the deputy speaker, depending on which party is in control. You understand that? Back then, honorable speaker, right? Honorable speaker, he made it clear, and you can see that even if he was objective, he could be seen as defending a partisan stance. In this circumstance, even if he was objective. The latest one is the same thing. You could see that honorable deputy speaker defending what was more of a partisan stand than a patriotic duty. So that sense of dualistic democratic decadence in the name of these political parties, the MPP and NDC, must stop. Ghanaians expect them. I don't know the constitutionality of it. I'll come there. Ghanaians expect them to be serious in handling matters of governance, matters of state. I strongly believe that there was a high dose of partisanship in the first one, perpetrated by the NDC. The second one is not different from the first one. The same partisan comedy. I'm appealing to both parties to allow patriotism to rule their operations, particularly when they are found in that honorable house. They are men and women of honor, and they must justify that title of honorability. They can only do that by sacrificing partisan interest and pursuing national interest. Today, it is clear that we are paradoxically slipping into an arena of constitutional crisis, because what is happening in Parliament has a direct consequences on the performance of the executive. Yeah. So it is an issue that brings the executive and the legislature to the brink of crisis. In fact, the legislature and the executive for now seems to be in a state of incompatibility, and that can affect the smooth running of the state. Now, the only organ left is the judiciary. So, in this sense, I am proposing that the judiciary should be given the opportunity to interpret the Constitution. In one sense, it is bad. In another sense, it is good, because out of resolved conflicts comes to intimacy. So if we can exploit that crisis, then we can get something good from it. If at the end of the day, the Supreme Court is allowed to interpret what is happening, the contentions in relation to the various constitutional provisions, and to give us a clear picture whether the budget was rejected or whether the budget has been accepted, I think it will be good for this country. The Supreme Court cannot or may not initiate the action. Let a responsible citizen take the matter to court. Let the Supreme Court interpret it. Because as it is now, there has been a deep division between NDC and MPP, and that division will continue to rule the parliamentary approach to this budget. And therefore, we don't expect anything patriotic from these two political parties in the conduct of, in the approach to the budget. What you can see clearly is crude partisanship. And that is why I am appealing as a solution to any Ghanaian or any institution to take the matter to court, allow the Supreme Court to interpret it, and I think it will entrench the culture of constitutional democracy in this country. The second one is for the two political parties to realize the danger of partisanship over patriotism. Let these political parties, the two political parties, NPP and NDC, accept the principle of consensus. And if they reason to accept consensus building in the legislature, they may not be the need for the judiciary to come in. But if they allow the judiciary to come in, it will still be good for democracy, but it will showcase their failure in service to the nation.
Right. Thank you very much. The technical team, I see some of our viewers complaining about the microphone. If something could be done about it, I'll be very much happy. I'll come back to you, Dr. Robert Kugan-Ablem. I have a question for you. But before that, let me do a few of your Facebook messages. From Ejabata, Denta says, governance has now turned to be a kids' play, all because of bad leadership led by Kufuor and Bawumia. Ghanaians voted for this government to solve their problems now. This government is rather the problem to be solved. Honestly, Ghana is sinking under the leadership of NPP. These are the men they claim they have. Our democracy is in serious danger, and I foresee something in the near future. Okay. Down below says, for the record, the 2022 budget and economic policy statement has been rejected, and no attempt of maneuvering would save them. Sadly, Some lawyers are finding it difficult to justify the machoism that transpired yesterday. Is it not curious that even most of the government's allies are against the killer taxes and other unpopular decisions contained in the budget? Let me take this opportunity to salute my gallant comrades in Parliament for standing beside vulnerable Ghanaians in this grievous moment. My regards to Dr. Nanama Brown Kluche. Right. Abno Wusu says the budget should not be accepted. E-levy would not be paid. Momo is Yamutu. Gameli Tojru says, please do something about the microphone. Yes, I've alerted the folks at the MCR about it. I'm sure they have. And Davis Tondam says, please rethink again because NDC wants to save MPP from the hatred of Ghanaians. Dennis Yao Akwete says, bless, please ask Dr. Mauto if the NDC with full complement was in Parliament and challenged the voice vote and called for division or headcount. Would the first deputy speaker at that point have voted? He should stop that MPP analysis unless he's one of them. Shalom. Abdul also says, so you all want the budget rejected. Why all this big grammar? What wrong has NDC MPs done? Blame the NPP for disrespecting our democracy. Is the deputy speaker better than the speaker himself? Mohammed Abdul Razak Ali says, this the judiciary is also partisan under this current government. Ghana is doomed. Zanjina Mankanu says, Dr. Mazuk, please didn't the Supreme Court use a dictionary as a statute of state to prevent the EC chair from mounting the witness box? The judiciary is compromised, and I personally don't have any trust in the judiciary, at least not when the current Chief Justice, who has refused to answer questions on bribery allegations against him. Right. So these are some of your Facebook messages there. You can keep them coming. I'll still do a few of them before we call it a day. Let me come back to Dr. Robert Kuga Naplem. He was a member of Parliament for the Binduri constituency. Doctor, what we know the happenings. We know what happened on Friday. We saw what happened yesterday. What could be the possible resolution?
Yeah, we all agree that we need some way forward because the country needs money to run. The government needs money to run. It must be, everybody must temper down on egos and let's deliberate. Deliberate in a manner that everybody participant is respected. That is all what we need at this point. All the two, simply if we balance it, there is no budget. If you balance the two, there's no budget for the country. There's no budget. And there are several things yet to be done. A lot of work at the committee level needs to be done. Because at times they put the figures and they get it all mixed up. And you go see some chunk of money lying somewhere without use when the people of Keita and the rest are crying for a sea defense wall. So it is important that we all put the egos aside and deliberate. Sit, talk. We all agree that there must be some form of tax. They levy. But we should know that we are moving, if we implement it as it is, then the whole idea of digitalization and cashless society is being eroded by this e-tax. We'll erode that completely and people will go back to hold money in their pockets. Now, the issue my colleagues have elaborated on the road to. Look, you do not disturb what needs not to be disturbed. You don't need to do that. The road tax people have paid, and at times they pay it in a way that doesn't even tickle their mind that they are paying something. And that is how taxes should be. It should be paid in a manner that is so, introduces very little inconvenience. Very little inconvenience. And at times these toll booths are good to reduce speed of vehicles, because you know that when you are speeding and I'm getting to this point, I have to reduce speed, and before you reduce speed and you gather speed again, you end up reducing road accidents. So these things are very, very, very important. We cannot lose that revenue. If there were leakages somewhere, let's close those leakages. And look, what the road minister has done is a serious, serious breach of the rules in Ghana. And nobody is talking about that. If it was some serious country where the road minister was not related to the president, he would have been in jail today. He would have been in jail for causing financial loss to the state. I'm telling you, this is serious. You as an individual cannot take that decision. That is bleeding the country financially. What is that? People go and take 1,000 cedis here, 1 guinea fowl here, 1 fowl, and they are jailed. And this man has caused the country billions of cedis. People are unemployed today. Some disabled person is not able to feed because of the actions of one singular man. And we are all happy because if you talk, you'll be, if you are MPP and you talk, you'll be you'll be sidelined. If you are NDC and you talk, they will not take it. So we are all keeping quiet. A moral society, Dr. Mawoto and co, who are supposed to tell the finance minister that the place for you today is jail. The place for you today is jail. Because this is a serious decision you should not take. I'm saying that jail.
And even I propose that. Yes, he reopens it because we are losing so much income.
Yes, I've heard the information minister say that. Yes, it looks as though doing away with the road tolls is good riddance because the income it fetches the nation is infinitesimal. It's just.
It is the weight.
It's paltry.
It is the weight. It's the weight.
If they want anything E at all, then it should rather be E toll boat.
I'm telling you,
that happens in America. In America, there are rules that can only be used by your own card. You have a card, so you are on the lane. You are supposed to be on the public lane, the lane that is not paid for. When you shift to another lane, then you have to pay. You go at the moment you go. The deduction, yes, it swaps. The deduction is automatic from your own car, your credit card.
This is America.
Yes.
A friend of mine who went to school in Senegal tells me if the truck drivers swipe to pay the road toll.
Yes. Senegal.
That's efficiency.
You understand that? My problem is why will you abolish a tax that targets the wealthy and introduce a tax that targets the poor? That is my problem.
And you see, you can also vary if somebody is driving a 4-wheel.
Yes.
Instead of 1 CD, you make it 5 CDs.
Sure.
Look, it's not only politicians who drive
SUVs.
Please look at me and smile. I'm telling you that the number of people who drive SUVs is huge. Supremo. So make it 5 cities.
Whether your party will ask the MPP to do that.
Why have they done that? Let them do and we'll criticize. Then the population will know that we don't stand for them, but we stand for ourselves. SUVs, 5 cities, throttle, 100, 1 city. 1 city is okay. Then maybe some taxi, 50 pesos and things like that. The minimum now, if we are going to raise money, it should be 1 city. And you monitor those who are collected. You monitor. I mean, Bawumia talks about digitalization.
Even if we go,
you just have to eliminate the human factor.
Yes. Exactly. If we are able to go electronic with that, it's going to be very.
I mean, if you go to register your car, then you get the ticket for road toll. That is it. It will reduce people driving all over the place because if I have a car, my wife has a car, and we have to pass through one toll booth. And we are all going singularly. We can join so that she can join me, and then we'll reduce the fees that we pay.
It will reduce traffic on our roads.
Reduce traffic but if it's 50
and enhance the romantic quality.
And then reduce the prices of the use of fuel, because we'll reduce the use of fuel. That will beat it down. Because if we are demanding fuel all the time, we have to pay for high prices.
Yes, we're all on the same page. I've seen Dr. Malto scribble down a few things he'd want to talk about. I think with regards to Dufour on Mahama and then Martin Amido on. But I'm sorry to burst your bubble. It's time, and we have to call it a day on the show. I'm sorry, I can't. I can't. I've been slandered on numerous occasions outside here for spending over my time.
No, but you didn't start on time.
No.
You didn't start on time.
Okay, 2 minutes each.
No, it's important.
Okay, a minute each. That's fine.
So, yes. You didn't know what I was going to say. I mean, I enjoy it when we have people speaking up, especially to figures, to facts. Okay, so when I heard that conversation, I asked myself, how true is this? That you need to look at the variables we use to assess. Indeed, I think he did not conclude made it look like Mahama's era was so bad. He used some indicators. Are you okay? So it shouldn't look like probably he was really trying to critique. But these were facts. Indeed, unemployment rate is one of the rates we use. He mentioned that as well. And I think he wanted to juxtapose giving the fact from the era of Kufuor to Mills, Mahama, and till date. And indeed, the figure speaks for itself. I'm making this statement because of what people are talking about, what I've heard people say. If you look at the unemployment figures, which he used, indeed, from 2008, it was 4.76%. And then from 2009 onwards, it started rising. So even during the time he was the minister, the unemployment rate was rising. It continued throughout the era of President Mahama. Even the time of Mahama was even serious because of the energy crisis. Not true. Yeah. But in his own time, there wasn't any energy crisis. And unemployment rate consistently increased from 2009, 5.13 to 32 until Mahama took over. Then the figures started escalating. And we all knew the history. Then I think when we got to 2016, that was the first time the numbers reduced from 6.81 to 5.46. Consistently, I think this new government also started reducing the unemployment rate until the year 2000. Because it has reduced consistently from... Yes. So in 2009, it has increased from 4.12 to 4.53 in 2019. Then in 2020, it was just an estimation of 11%. Estimation, but we've not come out to the real figures of unemployment rate. So I think people are chastising the man. But I see, what he said was in view of the figures available.
Right. Thank you very much. Dr. Mazu.
Yes. I want to salute him. Yeah. Because I see whatever he has said as an expert opinion.
Yeah.
And one thing for which he must be saluted is the self-criticism. I think he's part of the government, right? He's an NDC man.
No, but people also say that he has presidential aspirations. It
doesn't still matter.
And he knows that.
But officially, he's a member of NDC.
Yes, sure.
So if we have a political culture that will showcase criticism by the people within, that must be saluted. And I think we should have his type in the NDC, in NPP.
Right.
Right. Then, let me finish.
You gave him your one.
Yes. Okay. So let me just finish.
Right.
So finally, let NDC accept this criticism.
Yes.
And possibly, in good faith, and possibly mount a defense or a confirmation.
Thank you.
Yes, quickly, Dr. Dufour is a very noble and honorable man. Very gentleman, very knowledgeable when it comes to the issues of economics and managing the economy.
Somebody was a governor of the Bank of Ghana.
Now, the paper says that Dufour indicts Mahama on jobs. When you read it, he did not indict Mahama. What he says is that Dufour appears to indict his opponent.
That's editorial gimmick.
Indict his opponent. You see, you talked about the fact that he came, criticizing and blah 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 blah. You see, the point should be that yes, he's a noble and honorable man. Yeah. You should criticize, but not when you want to become an opponent. Do you get what I mean? Because we all want to build a country. We are building a country, and so if you have the expertise and you know where we went wrong, the NDC government went wrong, for which you are a part.
Yes.
Don't wait and find an opportune time where you want to contest before you criticize. Having said that,
contesting?
Abba, look, I'm reading from the paper.
No, is it contesting?
He says an opponent. He's an opponent.
No, this, you see, in one way, you are critiquing the paper. And then
So on what basis are you selective? On what basis are you selective?
From the grapevine, that is why we're here.
Yes.
From the grapevine,
all over.
Yes,
it is stated that it is a hearsay.
Listen. Now, John Mahama, at that time, yes, there were reasons why we...
Doctor, you have 30 seconds.
30 seconds. We were building hospitals to recruit people.
Okay.
Those hospitals are still abandoned. We're building classrooms to employ people. Those classrooms have not been completed yet. The infrastructure we're establishing, including extensions, Greco, and all the rest, were avenues to employ people. If those avenues were completed, we would not be in this state where we are now. Let me tell you, go to some schools, basic schools, you find 6 teachers in primary 1. Go to some school, it is under a tree and there's no teacher. So is this kind of employment that we want? We want to have reasonable employment where people go to work and are productive, they add something. The issue of Commander Sugar Factory, the loans were taken to create the farms. How many people would have been productively engaged?
Right.
So functioning employment.
Right.
Satisfactory. Not this kind of employment.
Right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Robert Nablem. Thank you very much, Dr. Nessa Mauto. Thank you very much, Dr. Mohamed Mazouk. He has been an interesting and very educative discourse here on the morning show. And thank you very much at home too for giving us 2 hours of your time. Thank you. Keep on watching Pan African TV. My name is Blessed Man Alomaso. Do have a pleasant day.